All right. All right. All right. Yeah, late. I know, late. All right, let's keep it going. Let's keep it going.
Now, we saw a Ring camera video from October 10th. Clearly shows that in the evening, 2 individuals came to the Murray's home and asked to come inside to look for a gas leak. They were turned away. We also know from Ring camera footage that the following day, in the morning at 11:22, the same individuals returned to the home, and this time they were let in. We know from the garage Ring footage that these 2 individuals left at 11:41. So we are talking about 19 minutes. We also know that the 911 call was placed at 11:47 a.m. within 5 minutes of these 2 individuals leaving the home. Officers do not enter that basement until 12:08 p.m. He, in fact, does not check for a pulse until 12:13 after saying, "I know it's silly, but what the hell? I will check for a pulse." The paramedics arrived even minutes after that. He testified, and you could hear from the comments that were being made on his body-worn camera, that he believed that Mr. Murray was shot in the head, which is usually an untreatable situation. We know from Dr. Shawn O'Brien, the medical examiner, that Mr. Murray was actually still alive after the assault occurred because blood was found in his lungs, and also based on the fact that there was a large amount of blood found on the floor around him. And as the doctor explained, his heart was still pumping. It was 30 minutes from the 911 call until someone attempted to render aid. Another important detail from Deputy Copeland were his comments that he found blood on the wall and the handrail leading to the basement. This blood swipe is very similar to the one that we heard and saw that was located upstairs near the bedroom. And who did we find out was the only person that went upstairs? Mr. Zuazo. We heard from Valerie Myra, the forensic lab investigator. She was responsible for taking the photos and assisting in the processing of the scene. She told you that when collecting...
Well, to be fair, that's what I said too, but you can't see the cops.
Evidence, you never just toss it into one bag because it ruins the integrity of the DNA. She also said that when you have wet items, you put them in paper bags. You don't put them in plastic bags. She took all of the pictures of the scene and then also did some fingerprint analysis back at the lab. Now, she did photograph that blood swipe upstairs. She was not directed to it and didn't see it or photograph the one.
Yeah, we had to shut down the old stream and start anew because we were 12 hours, well, we were 11 hours and 56 minutes in or something like that. So we had to shut down a new one. We are on closing arguments, and then we have a verdict. So we'll see what happens.
Down by the basement. We heard from another forensic lab investigator, Sierra Ramirez. She detailed her impressive academic achievements to be able to hold the position that she does. Now, she was in charge that day on collecting the evidence at the scene and then processing a number of the items for DNA. She explained that when you're collecting evidence, you need to wear gloves and wear a mask to prevent any type of DNA transfer or degradation of the DNA. You saw her not even wanting to open the package that Mr. Petrofessa handed her without gloves and a mask. She said it is very important when collecting evidence that you put everything in separate bags. She also described that if something has a biological substance on it, like blood, and that item is put next to something that is dry, DNA can transfer. Was Mr. Hernandez's DNA on the rolls of duct tape? Yes, we know he purchased the rolls of duct tape. Mr. Hernandez's DNA was also found on a number of items that were found in the back of his car after he handled them and packed them into his car. We also know that he packed all of the items that Mr. Zuazo was wearing in a black bag, which was found in his trunk. Now, we heard some testimony from Thomas Keelan. He was an individual that worked for POCO, and he testified that his truck was stolen on September 29th. Now, like we discussed in voir dire, even if you believe...
I was looking at it when it was getting up to like 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. I'm like, oh my God, this is long.
That Mr. Hernandez
we're still going strong now.
He's not charged with that. The fact that the truck was stolen does not satisfy any of the elements of the charges that he is on trial for. We also saw and heard from multiple witnesses saying that the truck was burnt. He was driven to Detroit that same day and burnt out. Again, Mr. Hernandez is not charged with anything related to the damaged vehicle. The burning of the truck does not satisfy any of the elements of what you are here to decide. We heard from Brian Broad, that was the former boss of Mr. Zuazo. We heard that he identified him from a video that was played on the news and the social media, and he immediately called the police. He also testified that Mr. Zuazo was let go due to poor performance and not following the rules, and that when he was fired, he decided to call his boss and tell him he was going to kill him. We heard from Deputy McCoy and the detective Casey Jones from Louisiana that Mr. Hernandez had an address in Katy, Texas, and that a vehicle was put out in the United States, and he was pulled over in Louisiana in a white Jeep. You heard that when he was pulled over, he complied with everything that was asked of him, and he pulled over immediately. We heard from Hannah Hussein. She's a family member of the Murrays and has been a store employee at that pawn shop for 20 years. She told you that in 22 and 23, Mr. Hernandez pawned items at the store that was owned by Mr. Murray. She described that in January of 2024, someone came in and redeemed the items that Mr. Hernandez had pawned. She couldn't say who that person was, but someone came in. She also told you a story that had never been previously told to police or written in a statement. Even though she agreed with me, it was an important detail. She told you at some point, which she does not know when, she remembers Mr. Hernandez entered the store when she was working and asked about a Rolex, and then asked to talk to the owner, Mr. Murray. She has worked at that store for 20 years and testified that on some days, she sees 50 people. In reviewing her testimony in the jury room, I ask that you review the judge's instruction on credibility. If we are to believe that happened, and Mr. Hernandez had an interest in Rolex watches, I understand Mr. Petrofessa's explanation of why that Rolex would not have been left on Mr. Murray's wrist if Mr. Hernandez was the one that was doing the assault. Does the fact that Mr. Hernandez went into the pawn shop owned by Mr. Murray in October of 2023 prove any of the required elements? I say no. Even if you believe that he went into the store in January of 24 to redeem his items, it does not prevent
Yep.
violence. There is no evidence to show that he had somehow been following Mr. Murray for over a year.
Judge Polis.
Now, we heard from Linda Murray, and I think that Mrs. Murray did the absolute best job she could testifying. Definitely the worst day of her life. Now, she told you that on the night of October 10th, she yelled down to her husband asking if he had his gun on him. If we are to believe that she said that loud enough for Mr. Hernandez to hear, does it make sense that they would come back the next day with no weapon? Especially not if the plan was to injure Mr. Murray. Now, she told you that she never saw any type of weapon from either Mr. Hernandez or Mr. Zuazo. Another interesting detail she mentioned was that Mr. Zuazo went downstairs with a mask. He had it on his face. But when he came back up, he didn't have a mask on. So whatever happened in that basement with Mr. Zuazo, it caused him to lose his mask. Not Mr. Hernandez. He still had his mask on.
Well,
a man that is 450 pounds be able to do the assault.
That's a
that we saw
correct
results of
answer.
And walk back upstairs with that same respirator mask on? I argue no. The most important part of her testimony in relation to Mr. Hernandez was the proximity in which Mr. Hernandez was to her for about 10 minutes of the time that he was in that home. All of the close interactions that she described happened after Mr. Hernandez had come up from the basement.
Yeah,
She told you that he used
sense.
his arms to grab her and take her to the kitchen. She told you that she watched his hands as he took off her watch, as he took her phone, as he went through her purse, as he went through the drawers in the kitchen. She was within inches of him as she watched his hands put duct tape on her wrists and on her ankles. She never saw one drop of blood on him. Not on his mask, not on his hands, not on his vest. No blood was smeared or swiped on her when he did all of those things that required him to make physical contact with her. You saw the amount of blood that was in the basement. If Mr. Hernandez did the assault on Mr. Murray, there would have been more blood on him. You saw in the autopsy photos the amount of blood that was on the face when someone used duct tape to bind him. I argue it would be impossible for Mr. Hernandez to be blood-free on his hands if he was the one that did that. Just look at the swipes of blood left by Mr. Zuazo. Now, we then heard from Detective Weidman. He is the one you saw in the interview with Mr. Hernandez, but also the detective who testified that he talked to Mrs. Murray pretty consistently for over a week and compiled his understanding from the interviews with her. I actually read from his report, and he agreed with all the statements in it. He stated that Mrs. Murray had told him that Mr. Hernandez came up from the basement and began to ask for money, jewelry, goes through her purse, takes her phone, that there was a period of time where this happened before Mr. Zuazo came upstairs. Now, once Mr. Zuazo comes upstairs, Mrs. Murray sees the blood on him and screams.
This closing argument is nonsense.
What Mr. Hernandez says in his interview. And obviously, at the time of his interview, he had no idea what had been reported to the police. But he tells the detective, everything was fine until Mr. Zuazo comes upstairs and he has blood on him. Now, we saw a lot of text messages today that Mr. Hernandez exchanged with his wife and with Mr. Zuazo. In all of those hundreds of text messages, nothing about a gun, nothing about a weapon, nothing about killing. Now, conversations about an elaborate larceny? Absolutely. Conversations about taking things that weren't his? Yep. But Mr. Hernandez does not have a charge that you are here to decide that is alone called.
Here's the problem. It's felony murder. If you're stating that there was a felony committed and you're agreeing that somebody died, then your guy is guilty. There's no arguing around this.
Larceny or home invasion. Now, we heard from the medical examiner, Dr. Shauna Bryan, and she told you that Mr. Murray did not die of a gunshot wound, which was previously thought, but actually he died after being beaten in the head and the neck. She told you that blood force injuries could have been from an object or a fist, or some of them could have even been from a fall. That while the injuries were severe, they could have been done by someone that was just 150 pounds. She also testified it takes 6 pounds of force.
It is stupidly funny.
Human head
I don't fault her.
This definitely could have been done by one person.
But
now,
I think it's going
Mr.
on
Hernandez
too long.
did not have to talk to the police. As you know, Mr. Zuazo did not. He could have remained silent, but he didn't, because he wanted the deputies to know that he was not part of the beating of Mr. Murray, and he wanted to tell them that. Now, it's usually not appropriate to talk about someone's size, but because it's been such a topic of conversation here, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Remember the video
It has.
of the interview in Louisiana? At that time, my client was booked into the jail at 450 pounds. As you can tell from those Lowe's videos, he had some trouble walking. And if you watch at the end of that interview, he could barely get up from the seat. Now, remember back to the photos of where Mr. Murray was found. That space is extremely small. I argue that there is no way that Mr. Hernandez could have been the one attacking Mr. Murray. One, I don't think he's physically able to, and keep his mask on. And two, there wasn't room. Now, Mr. Hernandez was open and honest about the fact that a truck was stolen, signs were made, outfits were purchased, forms were printed out, badges were made, clipboards, duct tape, zip ties. They bought hard hats. We saw them at Lowe's and Home Depot. All in elaborate preparation.
Oh, I
of a
agree
larceny, not a
with
murder.
her that nobody planned on
You did not see them buying weapons of any sort. That is because it is clear from the
unaliving
evidence
anyone.
and clear from what Mr. Hernandez
But
kept
it
saying
happened.
in his interview.
And that's the
It
risk
was
you
not
take when
supposed
you
to
commit a
happen.
felony.
Mr. Murray was not supposed to die. For that whole hour, Carlos kept the same tone, the same mood, until he was asked one question. If you killed the husband, why would you leave the wife alive? It was not supposed to happen. There was never a plan to kill Mr. Murray. If there was a plan to kill, why would you need to bind someone with duct tape? If someone is dead, they don't need to be bound. Think about that. They chose to walk in with tape instead of a weapon. Does tape show intention to kill? I argue no. Dr. Bryan told you that the duct tape on his hands and feet and mouth did not kill him. If there was a plan to kill, once the gun was removed from Mr. Murray by, I believe, Mr. Zuazo, why wasn't he shot?
Yeah, I mean, like her best argument is simply that he can't possibly physically do this. He could barely get up. He could barely walk. That's the only part of her closing that actually is legitimate. Like, but even then, it doesn't really count unless you're trying to fall on the sympathy of the jury. Like, you have to convince the jury that he really didn't do it, that the other guy did, because he wasn't physically capable of it. And the jury essentially would have to nullify the conviction. So she's kind of arguing for jury nullification without saying it.
Why then wasn't Mrs. Murray shot? Now let's talk about the mention of an insurance policy in the interview and the correlation to the black bag found in Mr. Hernandez's Jeep. In that black bag, we were told Mr. Zuazo's boots, gloves, hat, and 2 masks were located. DNA clearly shows that those items were his, and they matched what he wore on the Ring camera. Now, how did Mr. Murray's DNA end up on the large white t-shirt and the shoes of Mr. Hernandez? Well, unfortunately, Mr. Hernandez does not have the years of training regarding biological substances like the evidence technicians. Mr. Hernandez's own clothing was found in the same plastic bag as the bloody items from Mr. Zuazo. We learned about DNA transfer and degradation. If Mr. Hernandez had blood on him, Mrs. Murray would have seen it. I asked you in voir dire if you understood that you were not here to decide if Carlos
wasn't there
you'd like to have him as a neighbor,
blood or the victim's DNA on boy's giant
even if you don't like him, none of the elements
giant
are satisfied by that fact
6XL t-shirt.
You may not like any of the actions that Mr. Hernandez took leading up to October 10th, on October 10th, or October 11th.
His queen-size bed sheet that he wore over his torso.
That he committed the acts for which he is charged. Now I want to talk about the actual charges now. So we know the first count is first-degree felony murder. To prove this charge, the prosecutor must prove each and every one of the following elements. First, Mr. Hernandez caused the death of Hussein Murray, that he died as a result of neck compression and blunt force trauma. Second, Mr. Hernandez had one of the 3 states of mind. He intended to kill, he intended to do great bodily harm, or he knowingly created a very high risk of death, knowing that death or such harm would be the likely result of his actions. Third, that when he did the act that caused the death of Mr. Murray, that Mr. Hernandez was committing or attempting to commit or helping someone else commit the crime of larceny. As we all know, after the end of 3 days, a larceny is a taking of property with intent to permanently deprive the owner without consent. Now, did the prosecutor prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that it was Mr. Hernandez that caused the death of Mr. Murray? I argue no. The prosecutor now gets 2 bites to this apple here. They are either arguing that yes, it was Mr. Hernandez who actually did the beating death of Mr. Murray, or if you don't believe that, then he is still guilty under aiding and abetting. This instruction is so important and actually very helpful to you when you go back in that jury room, so I want to go over it. The judge is going to tell you to prove the theory of aiding and abetting. The prosecutor must prove all of the following elements beyond a reasonable doubt. First, that the alleged crime, which is felony murder, was actually committed either by Mr. Hernandez or someone else. Second, that before or during the crime, the defendant did something to assist in the commission of the crime. And third, which is the absolutely most important element. Third, at the time, Mr. Hernandez must have intended the commission of felony murder, or must have known that the other person intended its commission, or that the crime alleged was a natural and probable consequence of the commission of the crime intended. Was murder a natural and probable consequence of the commission of larceny? I argue absolutely not. And because of that, you have to find Mr. Hernandez not guilty of felony murder. These 2 individuals did not bring a weapon. They walked in the home with fake DTE equipment and duct tape and zip ties. Death was not the natural and probable consequence of those actions. It is clear that Mr. Hernandez went into that house thinking he could make some fast cash and get a house. There's been absolutely no evidence that Mr. Hernandez went there with the intention to kill anyone in that home, and because of that, I argue felony murder was not proven. Now, Mr. Hernandez is also charged with 2 counts of unlawful imprisonment. As we discussed in openings in voir dire, there's 1 count as to Mr. Murray, 1 count as to Mrs. Murray. The elements are the same. For count 2, unlawful imprisonment against Mr. Murray, I do believe that the prosecutor has proved the elements of this charge under the aiding and abetting theory we just went over. Mr. Hernandez went into the house after purchasing duct tape and zip ties that he shared with Mr. Zuazo. I believe the evidence then shows Mr. Zuazo used those.
That she's acquiescing to at least count 2 of the false imprisonment. It's probably not a bad strategy.
Those items to restrain Mr. Murray. The binding of Mr. Murray.
Otherwise, it'll discredit anything else.
Him walking in there with that tape. I believe the prosecutor proved that to you. As to count 3, unlawful imprisonment against Mrs. Murray. I do believe that the prosecutor has proved the elements of this charge. The testimony of Mrs. Murray indicates that it was Mr. Hernandez who used duct tape on her wrists and ankles prior to leaving the home. The verdict form will not say guilty or innocent. The verdict form will say guilty or not guilty. And by voting not guilty, you are voting not proven, that the prosecutor has not proven his high burden. I ask on behalf of my client, Carlos Hernandez, that you return a verdict that is consistent with the law, consistent with justice, and a verdict that is supported by all of the facts and evidence that you have heard in the last 3 days. And that would be a verdict of not guilty as to count 1 and guilty as to count 2 and 3. Thank you very much.
That's interesting. She went with the find my client guilty of these lesser charges. That's really interesting. I wasn't going to hang on. All right. Let's see what the verdict is. Those were the closing arguments. Where do we sit on all of this? I feel like we have a conviction. Let me see here. All right. That's not what I want. I want the live feed. Ah, this is a news article or not like a news story. No, that's not what I want. Do they not have it? That sucks. All right, we gotta do the news verdict version of it. All right, so we're gonna do this. Breaking news. Breaking news. Not guilty. Yeah, that is a different approach. But when you are trying to argue something and you have some okay arguments on one thing, and you have some cases that you or some counts that you're clearly not going to be able to convince anybody out of. Why spend the time doing it? It cheapens your position on the other arguments that you might actually be able to do. So the unaliving one, she's arguing that's the most severe. She's arguing, hey, he didn't prove it. Now, based on the text messages, the videos of him buying the stuff, and the duct tape and zip strips and that sort of thing, you can't you can't argue away the fact that he went there to commit a larceny and he tied them up. You just can't. It's a ridiculous position. The unaliving is still a really bad position, but it's not as ridiculous. It's not as much of denying reality. So I don't know what else. I don't know what else you would argue. I think she did good with what she had. Hard to imagine we got an MLS all night stream before Sean. I know, right? All right. So we have a verdict. It's breaking news. We're going to have to suffer through the news part of it rather than just the live feed, but let's do it.
Two teams, one here at home, another in Texas, working together for 20 years. But Cody, I'm Lauren Edwards.
Fox 2.
Welcome to Fox 2 News at 10. I'm Jessica Dupnack. Two men on trial accused of murdering a jewelry store owner in Rochester Hills at his home.
Jewelry store owner is a hard phrase to say. We know.
They did it while posing as DTE workers, convincing the man there was a gas leak in his house. Today, the jury delivering the verdicts one at a time.
Count 1, first-degree felony murder. Guilty as charged of first-degree felony murder. Count 2, unlawful imprisonment.
Guilty on all counts for Joshua Zuazo. Back in October of last year, he and his accomplice killed Hussein Murray, robbed his house, and tied up his wife. Now, jury deliberations only took a little more than an hour. A few minutes after reading the verdict on Zuazo, the jury read its decision on the other man in this case, Carlos Hernandez.
The jury finds defendant Hernandez guilty as charged of first-degree felony murder. Count 2, unlawful imprisonment. The jury finds defendant Hernandez guilty as charged of unlawful imprisonment. Count 3, unlawful imprisonment. The jury finds defendant Hernandez guilty as charged of unlawful imprisonment.
Okay, are you thinking we're going to?
After the verdicts, Hussein Murray's family spoke about it with Fox 2.
We have a verdict that is just, and we are satisfied and happy with the verdict that is just, and justice was done here. Our hearts are broken because no verdict of guilty can ever bring my dad back. But we will honor his life, his generous spirit, his strength of heart, and honor this woman with every breath we have.
Both men will be sentenced December 9th.
All right, there we go. December 9th for the sentencing. Ooh, it's in my face. Wasn't he in Dexter? Who? Wasn't who in Dexter? I gotta zoom out a little bit. That's bugging me. So there we go. That has been 12 hours and 19 minutes. I built 2 Lego sets, by the way. So I built the Nintendo. Look at that. That's pretty cool. The Nintendo Game Boy, and then I also built. Wendy gave me this. Wendy gave me Wednesday, a little Wednesday flower. So I built those 2 sets. And I had a little nap, and we watched an entire trial. It was a good time. It was a good time. Thank you for all sticking around with me for this. My favorite place to be, in your face. All right, I'll take that. Thanks, Fox. No, it's a Game Boy Lego. It's a Lego. It's a Lego. See, it comes apart. It's a Lego. This actually just came out. It's not even available in Lego stores yet. I got a pre-order, so I'm very excited about it. And then you can change out the games, and you can change out the screens. And somehow I got to get in here and yeah, see, you can change out the screens. So now there's nothing in here. So that's very cool. I also have a Mario Brother cartridge. Wait, hang on. Let me hold it this way. There you go. So I built 2 Lego. We watched an entire trial. I got no sleep. It was a good time. Zelda 2. Yeah, so I got Zelda. It comes with the Zelda, which is the best game. If I could play Zelda on Nintendo Game Boy, I'd be happy for the rest of my life. And then the Super Mario Land. Yeah, so we did all those. No Pokemon. No, Pokemon is lame. Pokemon is so lame compared to Zelda and Mario Brothers. Oh, well, I am happy to hear that. I have a ton of Legos. I have more to build. We have a Lego stream coming up November 1st with Steph the Alter Nerd and Nick Staroff going head-to-head in a competition. It's a Halloween special. I have another Wednesday Lego set that Wendy sent me that I'm going to build for that stream. And then I have a couple other ones. So, all right. I'm going to let you all go, and I'm going to go to bed. But thank you again for joining me. Thank you for... Oh, I can't pull them up anymore because I shut it down. Well, thank you to everybody who gave gifted memberships. There was a lot of gifted memberships at the beginning of this last stream. And on MLS gaming stream, I might do a gaming stream. Good morning, Aaron Olivia. You're going to have to go back to the other stream because this one's only 22 minutes long. Oh, yeah. I think... No, hang on. I got to set up a redirect. Let me do that real quick. Who's coming up? Who's got stuff going on? Hang on a second. Let's see. I think the Baker. I'm going to send you guys over to the Broken Baker. Yeah, he's talking about Turtle Boy. I think. Let me check. Let's see here. Who's live? Baker's live. I'll send you guys over there. Undo change. What happened? You guys should go over there. Oh, Snivels. With the 10 gifted memberships. Thank you very much. Let me get over there in a second. I just want to make sure that I have everything set up here. And I'll go read off who got them. Let's see. Can I get this to work properly? I don't like the way Studio runs. Where'd it go? Come on. Open it up. There we go. All right. So Snivels gifted 10 memberships, and they went to Aaron Hack, Lolita Smiles, Vulu 87, Janine J, Let's Go Brandon, Wanda Stevens, Steve Tremel, Leanne, and B, I guess. I don't know. But thank you very much for this, for the gifted memberships. And I will see you guys. I don't know. I'll try to do something else before November 1st. But if not, I'll see you guys then. Bye, y'all.
When I was young, my daddy said, gotta keep one eye open in your bed. Cause there's a time coming when the devil gonna come for you. So my trigger